This is Inside Mental Health, Building Empathy with VR. Carrie Ting, Rachel Starr Withers, Walter Greenleaf. Rachel is an entertainer, an international speaker, a video producer, and schizophrenic. Rachel creates videos documenting her schizophrenia as well as hosting the frankly amazing Inside Schizophrenia podcast. Rachel has worked with Anagram on the original Goliath Playing with Reality experience, and if you do the experience, Rachel's one of the voices that you'll hear.
Hey, what's up? My name is Rachel Starr Withers. I'm an entertainer, and honestly, if you know about my life, the fact I have schizophrenia is probably one of the least interesting parts. My goal is to have an amazing life and let other people who have schizophrenia and serious mental disorders know that they can too.
One of the bits of feedback we received from the mental health lived experience community, and the reason really we've developed the Inside Mental Health program, is that when we took it to people and showed it to them and said, you know, who would you most like to show this to? More than their family, more than their friends, they said they wanted their doctor to see it. As somebody who's with lived experience of schizophrenia, can you just give us some insight into why that might be?
When you have schizophrenia, when I go to the psychiatrist, and they can very easily be like, okay, we're going to switch you to this med, or you're going to need to do this, you're going to need to do this therapy. And they make it sound very simple, like, okay, you do A, you get B. And it's not like that. A lot of medications have very serious side effects. One of the most interesting things is if you do the Goliath game, which is part of Inside Mental Health, you actually experience what it's like for the man who's going through schizophrenia. His medications are changed, how it slows him down, how he has weight gain, how he's just pulled away from the real world more and more. It's easy to say, oh, well, someone can go for a 2-week hospital stay. Most people's lives fall apart if you're gone for 2 weeks. You know, what happens when you come out and you no longer have a job? And it's that empathy that it helps build. And I think that when you're dealing with the psychiatry community, they kind of forget that part. They forget that being on a medication that makes you gain 50 pounds in a couple of months, that changes your whole life in a lot of ways, just for clothing, for one. And that's why I love VR, because you're able to go inside of a situation that you might not have been able to visualize before and be like, oh wow, there's a lot of little nuances that I never even thought about affecting people. And the Goliath story, it is a true story about a gentleman in the UK, and it's I feel like it's a very powerful thing, because he seems, quote unquote, normal. And you're just kind of wanting to help him. I think, like they said in the video, you want to like reach out and give this guy a hug of like, listen, it's going to be okay. You seem so normal. You seem so fine. And at the same time, you're in this hospital for so long, and you're going through all of this stuff. It could be you, it could be me. And I think that's what's beautiful about Goliath. Even though if you haven't had a serious mental disorder, you've never had a psychotic break, you're able to be like, wait, what would my life be like if I suddenly was in that situation? And that's what's important for students going into the medical field to understand, is what it is actually like, not the crazy, not the wild stuff, but the everyday schizophrenia, the everyday managing a serious mental disorder.
We hear your voice among the many voices in there. What was it that made you want to get involved? Just how important are XR experiences in terms of humanizing like these complex issues?
I actually have a podcast with Healthline Media called Inside Schizophrenia, and Anagram had originally found that and reached out to me back in the research stage of Goliath. So I started talking to them, and they shared with me the Goliath story, and I got to kind of work with that side of the team on how best to showcase the emotional side and what it's like to go through the medication changes, your life kind of falling apart, that empathy side that any of us can relate to. I do want to throw this out here, because I feel like we're burying the lead that Tilda Swinton is the narrator in Goliath. So if you haven't played it and you're just like listening, it's amazing. You're just transported by her beautiful voice. So her voice is there, and then my country accent comes on, so you're welcome. But it is a really incredible learning tool, and I love the fact that now we have it for ADHD, and I hope this keeps on. I hope we can have a bipolar version, a depression version, and that doctors and med students can see this and be like, okay, I can see a whole different side to this disorder. It's not just a set of symptoms and medications. There is a whole lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that affects these people's lives and could change the way I treat them.
Thanks. So, Rachel, are you seeing any sort of changes in sort of the way institutions are, sort of, the contact that you have with sort of various institutions, are they starting to change and develop? Is technology being adopted in different ways, or is it still quite a slow turning circle?
I normally live in South Carolina, so I gotta say that any of the medical professionals I go to are not using VR in any way. My current therapist that I see, I talk to her through a Zoom-like program. Honestly, I love that. I think that's a really great thing for people with serious mental disorders where, yeah, getting out of bed sometime is hard. There's no excuse for me to miss an appointment with her because I can just log on my phone and talk to her. You know, and that has its ups and downs. Sometimes I feel like it is better for me to have that human interaction and have to go and talk to her in person, but it is good for the days that I'm really sick because I'm able to just, be real with her and be laying in my bed and, set the little thing. And she's able to see me in a way that she definitely would not if I always came into the office. She's able to see me at kind of more of my low states. So I think there's a lot of interesting kind of little quirks there to technology where it can kind of open up a different way for clinicians to see their patients where they wouldn't just in an office setting. The disability community in general, we're talking about physical, mental, they're really big gamers. And I think part of that is that we're missing a piece. And whether you're talking about VR or just any type of game, it lets us do something that we normally can't do. And of course, even as normal people, we can be like, well, yeah, you can fly in games, you can do all kinds of stuff. But it kind of makes it more of a fun way to work on healthcare. I can totally see why those kids didn't want to show up to Zoom. They're like, no, we have to do Zoom classes. We're in the hospital. Like, that's every day. But hey, yeah, this is kind of like a game. This is like a game that helps me emotionally. And all of us know that you will play games, even really boring games. Farmville, Candy Crush. We will spend a ridiculous amount of time on games that aren't even that fun. And that's kind of how I like to think of it with getting treatment with my schizophrenia. Hey, if you can give me a game that treats my schizophrenia even a little bit, I'd much rather do that than take another pill, than have to meet up with another therapist. I enjoy those things and they're good for me, but the game thing, hey, I do Duolingo to learn Spanish every day, and that is not a fun game. But I've been doing it over for like a year and a half now, so the little owl gets me. Think if we had that for mental health.